Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira Cohen, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone, so today we're joined by Andrea Trank, and she is a certified integrative medicine health coach, a yoga teacher, a HeartMath clinical coach, and trauma-sensitive HeartMath practitioner. She's also done many courses in Ayurveda, Yin, yoga for the spine, yoga for the pelvis, and for osteoporosis. So she is an expert in many fields. She just wanted me to clarify beforehand that she's not certified as a yoga therapist, but as you can see, she's certified in many other things. She's also been a science teacher. One thing I just wanted to mention was that we talked just before our talk, we had a little talk, and I asked her about her journey, and she explained that she had to go through many different modalities and each helped a little bit. And then sometimes something works for a while and after a while it doesn't. So I had the same experience. And I think many therapists who go into the alternative modalities or complementary sciences seek further because one thing functions for a while and then we need to find or go into another field because it's not enough. And that's usually down to hormones and the emotions that trigger these cascades of hormones or conditions or imbalances we have. And so usually it's a journey of trying one thing and then that works for a while, and then after you realize that's not the whole picture and you just keep going deeper and deeper. And so usually we've gone through a whole journey of probably decades of trying to find that equilibrium. And as I've discovered in the last few years of my researching for my book, that emotions and the hormones that kind of escalating or cascading after these emotions have a huge effect and are very complex and not so easy. And that's why for women, especially because we have all these different cycles and all these different hormones, and they change constantly according to our menstruation and the phases of our life, that it's a very complex science. And that's why we need to integrate not just one kind of therapy. We need to look at all sorts of therapies and bring it all together. So I'm reading this amazing book called Invisible Women, and it doesn't talk about the hormones, but it does talk about the complexity of our lives and how so much is unseen, unheard, untold, untalked about. And so that just makes it even more difficult. That's why I want to bring all this up. And I hope you enjoy the talk. I definitely did. So today we're joined by Andrea. I'd just like to ask you about your yoga journey and how you got to where you are now, because I've read in your blogs about your autoimmunity, your anxiety, and the emotional dysregulation. So it's very interesting for me to hear, and I think for our listeners as well.
Well, thank you, Shira, for inviting me on today. And I do follow you as well. So I've been following your journey. What's interesting about my journey is I didn't realize anything was wrong with me. So it was like, I thought I was a happy-go-lucky kid. And now in looking back, I see the traumas and the signs, but I didn't see them then. So I was just sort of going along my way, having some stomach issues that nobody could really diagnose, pursuing very passionately careers. My first career was TV news reporter. And all of a sudden, I started developing post-traumatic stress from covering the stories I was covering. So I was witnessing things like murders and plane crashes. And you know how a reporter has to run around with a microphone, sticking microphones in people's faces, getting these stories down, either for the news, and not realizing that they were building up in my system, and that they were just not leaving me. And so it was about 5 years into my TV news career, I started like thinking, oh, I have a brain tumor if I covered a story about somebody with brain cancer. And then I'd go to a bunch of doctors. And then I developed a fear of flying because I covered too many plane crashes. I wouldn't get on a plane. And it was just one thing after another. I covered an earthquake. We had to move out of LA. My husband and I were living in LA. And all of a sudden, I couldn't live in LA. And thank God I was married to the man I was married to. So he moved all the way across the country so that I could feel safe because I was afraid of earthquakes.
How wonderful.
And it's like, and I didn't really know what was going on with me. It's just like one thing after another. And I'm like, I have no idea why I'm behaving this way. And everybody said, you're just too sensitive, Andrea. Maybe you should go on medicine. Now, my saving grace, Shira, was I was more afraid of the side effects of medicine than I was willing to take it. I had that fear, so I wouldn't take the medicine. So I became determined to figure out natural ways to deal with what was going on with me. By the time I had children, my anxiety would turn into panic attacks every time there was a thunderstorm. I would grab the kids, put them in a closet with me, and we'd hide in the closet together till the thunderstorm was over. Now, somehow I still managed to live a life. I still managed to go to a job. I was a school teacher by then. I had left TV news reporting. I had gone back to school. I had gotten several advanced degrees in education. I was in the classroom working with kids, keeping it together all day long. And then I'd come home and I'd start panicking about everything. I mean, imagine raising 3 children, not being able to travel by plane. We took trains on our family vacation or drove everywhere. And I thought this was a normal life.
Yeah.
You know, and so and it wasn't until I had to go on medical leave from a teaching job because the anxiety was getting so bad. I wasn't able to reach the students. So I'd come home at night and I would just be in tears because I could not reach the students. So I was panicking about how am I going to face these kids? So I went on medical leave and I found my first yoga class. And this was about 30 years ago. I walked into the back of that class and there was this lovely teacher and I did about 10 minutes and she said, just go ahead and lay on the floor for the rest of the time and stay here. So I started attending her yoga classes several days a week. She had beautiful use of metaphors. She just she used every style of yoga. She just, had this way. She was a school teacher herself. So I could relate to her because she had that teaching quality. And the other thing I did at the same time is I took my first jewelry making class. And
Yes.
that was my first form of meditation. So here I was taking yoga and I was designing jewelry. And during those 2 activities, I could feel, and I didn't know it was my nervous system, I could feel myself calm down and just start to be in a better place. And then I was able to start figuring out strategies for how to manage the students and strategies for how to manage my fear of thunderstorms and strategies for how to calm myself down when I felt like I was going in a panic attack. So these were my first 2, I would say, healing tools that I put in my toolbox, the jewelry making and the yoga. So life is going on and I'm doing great with my kids and I'm still teaching and we're moving through life. And the next really big crisis was when my mother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Mm.
And so when my mom got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I got very concerned about, having the gene, the Alzheimer's gene. And also, I could tell things physically were starting to go wrong with me. So while I felt like I was emotionally handling myself better and mentally I developed some skills, I started having more physical issues, more gut issues, hormone issues, chronic pain in my body. And so I started to go again to the regular doctors. I went the regular route. And it's like they're handing me
I think
medicines
it's
again.
normal when you're not sure what it is, you need their diagnosis at least.
Exactly. And they're saying, well, I think you have an autoimmune disease. And I'm like, oh, what? An autoimmune disease? What's an autoimmune disease? And of course, that created a little bit of panic.
Yeah.
But now, instead of just getting all panicked, I said, I got to figure this out. So I started attending every webinar and session on autoimmunity and nutrition and how to handle, your toxic load. I started becoming an expert on all these things. And so I got rid of all the toxics in my house. I wouldn't use any chlorine. I wouldn't use any bleach. I got rid of the metal pans that weren't safe. I got rid of all my plastics. I put a reverse osmosis system on my water to detoxify my water. And I just went headlong into this, just doing everything. I changed
You're a big researcher.
I'm a big researcher.
Yes.
And so once I researched everything, I changed my diet, I changed my supplements, I changed my work habits, and I did all these things. And I was starting to feel better. I was managing my autoimmune disease without medicines. I was managing my mother's care and all the craziness that was going on. I'm one of 10 children. You can imagine, with 10 brothers and sisters, and my parents had money. And so everybody thought I moved down to Florida to grab more of their money, when I moved down to Florida to take care of my parents. The will was already set. I had this need to take care of my mother. I mean, I felt very drawn to her.
Yeah.
And so the stress of that, so I felt better. I had lost some weight. My numbers looked good. Again, I was managing this on my own. I found a couple of functional medicine doctors who were advising me, and things were going smoothly again. And then I realized I'm still trying to be perfect, and somehow that is making me anxious. So it's like I had to climb the next mountain, and for a while it was like if I didn't do this perfectly, I was developing almost anxiety over if I ate something wrong, if I touched my toe in a chlorinated pool. So it was the same thing manifesting in a different way. So I still wasn't completely understanding the effect of my nervous system on everything I was doing. And so that's when I discovered HeartMath and learned about heart-brain coherence. And so in some ways and the vagus nerve. And so these have been like the last little pieces that I'm now putting together in my toolkit that is helping me stay healthy. But I have to do them all for me. That's just...
You have to do them daily, or you combine everything in your living style?
It's my lifestyle now. So, it's not like I can't say that one thing alone would be enough for me with my nervous system, my genetics, my whatever traumas I might have, even intergenerationally in my system. I have to do all those things together in order to feel like my best version of myself.
And do you still have a lot of anxiety that arises if you don't do those things, or it's just, yeah, you get out of balance physiologically and that
I do.
the anxiety, or inverse?
Yeah. And you know what? The fact is, because I'm so tuned in with myself now,
Hmm.
that I catch it quickly enough, Shira. But if I if I forgot, if I got very involved in a project like you are, writing a book, and I do have that ability to get so singularly focused on something that I care so much about. And then all of a sudden, the next day, I realize I'm constipated. And then I start, I didn't eat my regular
Okay.
things that I need. So I'm very Vata in nature,
Okay.
that I absolutely need that routine for my system to operate at my best.
Yeah.
And I know that enough about me. So but at the same time, if I say, I'm making the choice to stay up till midnight tonight to watch a movie with my husband, I'm prepared the next day to say, I might be a little off. So I might have to do more of my heart focused breathing, or
Mhm.
I might have to not eat food for the day and just, do juicing. So I have all these tools in my head to say, I'm not going to stop living, or if I'm going to travel, I'm going to be prepared, then I'm going to feel off, but knowing that I can always re-regulate myself, that I'm empowered to do this, means I won't get into a full-blown anxiety attack, because I know what happens to my system. So if you're prepared, you know how to, prevent, but you also know how to fix.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful, but tiring too, I imagine sometimes. Yeah, but like you say, it becomes a lifestyle, and you just do it. Yeah.
Exactly. In some ways, this past year of being in the pandemic has been the best thing for my system, because it allowed me to pivot more of my business online, which means I can do all the things
Mm,
I need to do to
okay.
self-regulate and,
Yeah.
and manage. Now, the only thing it doesn't do, but this does this, is the social interaction. But I love social interaction like this,
Yeah.
and so as long as you get some social engagement, because as you know, it's not only about self-regulation, but you also want to
Regulate.
co-regulate
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This is what I miss a lot, and I think a lot of people are struggling because of this. We
yeah,
do need, this is an option, this zooming, but I think the physical contact, it's been proven to really physiologically and mentally increase well-being and health.
yes. And so I am lucky in that I can teach my yoga classes outdoors. I live in
Yeah.
Florida.
Oh, great.
So I do get to be around people that way. And my family, I'm very close with my family. And because of that, I have a really close relationship with my husband and my children. And I have one pet right down here, and one
Go
of
for
the
the
others.
pet.
My pups are very, very, I mean, they snuggle up against me. So I do get that touch as well too.
Good, good. I just wanted to go back to something you said, which our listeners might not know. What is the vagus nerve, and why is it important? And what is this heart-brain coherence that you mentioned before?
Okay. Well, I learned about the vagus nerve in the last couple of years, because they've done like 3,000 webinars on it, on it's just and
And
so
you
I got
followed
in.
all of them.
I attended every one of them, of course. But basically, the vagus nerve is your largest longest nerve plexus. So it's not one nerve, it's a bundle of them. And it's a huge bundle, and they call it the wandering nerve, because it wanders from your brain stem, and it goes through the middle of your body and connects with your heart. It connects with most of the organs in your gut, which is why people like me who have gut issues, we tend to also have nervous system issues. There's a huge connection between your nervous system and your gut.
Yeah.
And so the
And the
vagus
brain.
nerve and the brain.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the brain connection initially. I realized the gut connection. And so because of that, I realized that those of us who are prone to anxiety, we sometimes have really poor digestion, and it can go one way or the other. Mine happened to go the way that I had slow digestion. And it was because the vagus nerve and my gut weren't communicating smoothly. The vagus nerve, if I can calm my vagus nerve down, and if I can work with this is another term, parasympathetic system, and it's a big word for meaning that system of your nervous system that is in control of resting, digesting, tending, mending. It's the take care of yourself system.
Yeah.
If you happen to be a go, go, go person, like you can tell already that I am, and you happen to be type A, which you can tell that I am wired that way, you tend to be in a fight and flight system. Now, fight and flight has gotten a bad name. It's not necessarily fight and flight. It is your do system.
Yeah, it's activation. Wake up.
You gotta get going with the world. And so we need that system to be working. But some of us, like me, can't turn that system off very well and turn on the rest, digest, mend, and tend. And that's because we're not working our vagus nerve very well. And our vagus nerve is the key to that. So activating the vagus nerve through breathing techniques, through calm activities, and really a lot of these yoga activities.
It's what they call vagal tone, no?
Exactly, toning it up. It's a muscle. It's not a muscle, but think of it as a muscle. You gotta, anything you want to work well, you have to spend some time doing. And so, it would be nice if I were wired to have good vagal tone, but knowing that I'm not wired to have good vagal tone through my genetics, through my history, through my personality, through my lifestyle up till recently, then I had to make that a priority, giving my vagus nerve the proper exercises it needed so that it was toned up. And then I learned the second part, which is, okay, so I did, lots of relaxation. I'd rub my tummy. I would get in various restful positions. I did lots of wonderful yoga. I tried to sleep more. The new discovery for me was the connection between the vagus nerve, between the heart and the brain. And it's actually a really interesting story, Shira, how I got involved with this work. I was actually working with another yoga therapist, and I was taking her course on chakras, and she offered to do, Marcia?
Who was it? Marsha Dandy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, and Marcia she offered to do a reading. I guess she reads, I don't know what she reads. It's beyond me, but she obviously knows what she's doing. So here she and I are on like a screen like this, and she just steps back from the screen and goes, Andrea. And I said, what? She said, I'm seeing heart. And I'm going, what do you mean you're seeing heart? That's exactly what I said to her. I said, I've been very involved in doing yoga for brain health because my mom died of Alzheimer's. And she said, I think you need to somehow be involved with something heart related, like the Heart Association. She said, I'm not really seeing what. So the next day I'm sitting at the computer reading through Facebook feeds, and up pops on my feed HeartMath certified coach training 50% off for certified health coaches. And I'm going, this can't be a coincidence. I literally knew nothing about HeartMath. I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know what HeartMath is. And I thought, well, if this woman says this to me yesterday, and today I'm seeing this on my screen and the price is right, I ought to check it out.
That's synchronicity for you. Yeah.
That is.
So lovely.
So I took the course and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the missing piece for me, because it started to explain how heart rate variability, HRV, which a lot of people don't understand. It's not your pulse.
No.
It's the actual beat to beat, the space between the beats. And we all think that it's uniform, right? Because we see those pictures that have, oh, it's very uniform. And in fact, it's not, because when you need a lot of energy or you're stuck in that high go, go, go nervous system state, you have a really erratic, chaotic looking wave. Your body is not knowing how to switch on and off from having to do and activate to how to rest. And the best example I can give of that is, you know how certain animals, particularly cats, they can be really alert for a minute, something startles them, and then within 2 minutes, they're asleep again? Exactly.
They just drop.
Exactly. And people like me that are wired like I am don't have that ability naturally. Yeah. We don't know how to switch on and off easily, that when we stay in this go, 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 it stays with us and stays with us, and our system gets stuck. And I'm thinking, this is the problem. I don't know how to switch my system on and off easily from the rest to the go.
And do you think that is due to habits or just?
I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things. I think it probably is genetic a little bit. And it's interesting because my genetics that would favor that kind of system are also the genetics that make me want to learn so much. So I'm a very cognitive person. Like, I'm in my brain a lot. Like, I want to learn, I want to do, I want to, and so it's a blessing and a bane. But I think there's also habit, there's diet, there's, your surroundings, there's your trauma. So I think a lot of those things can come into play. But being able to learn how to regulate your variability, not your heart rate, your variability, the ability to switch on and off from go to rest, is a skill like toning the vagus nerve, and can be done through these HeartMath techniques. So they're considered self-emotional regulation tools, but also physiological coherence tools.
And do they work through the vagal nerve?
They do. And it's interesting. The vagal nerve is the reason, the vagal nerve is the pathway by which the heart speaks to the brain. And when the brain is speaking down to the heart and other parts of the body, it's usually going through those nerves in your spinal cord. And the vagal nerve is surrounding the spinal cord. But if you learn to do these techniques, you can actually activate more of the communication that's initiated by the heart. That's upward communication. And in fact, the more we practice that, really the heart has the ability to communicate far more with the brain than the brain does with the heart. But most of us just don't know how to access it, or we just don't take the time to listen to its still voice. And another interesting thing, a lot of people say, I have a gut intuition.
Yep.
The gut intuition is actually the third piece, or gut instinct. It starts with heart intuition. The heart sends something up to the brain sends it to the gut, and that's the first a lot of people are aware of. So that gut instinct is really a heart intuition that has been filtered up
and filtered through the brain. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, I've read this on the HeartMath, and I've heard it from, what's her name? Danielle Laporte. She's a great HeartMath fan. And that the heart speaks 60 times louder and sends out magnetic waves that other people pick up than the brain.
Well, and that's a really interesting point. And they've done tests where they can use a magnetosphere, and and the heart goes out 3 feet away from you. So you could do a whole circle around you 3 feet, whereas the brain is less than an inch. So its signals that it's putting out is less than an inch. And so people do sense your energy. And what's really cool, and I'm really excited about this because I'm a science nerd at heart. The HeartMath Institute has now put these magnetosphere technologies all over the world. I don't know what they're called, magnometers. And what they're doing is they are checking the natural magnetic energy that comes from the earth, the hertz of that. And when we are in coherence, we get the same hertz. 0.1 hertz is when we're in perfect coherence, heart and brain. That's the same, the same as the Earth's natural from gravity. It's, to me, that means when we are in coherence, we're also in coherence with the earth.
Yeah, we're aligned, we're attuned.
It's just like, and I just love that, and it makes sense.
It just confirms what we already know.
Exactly.
Why we love to be in nature.
Exactly, and how we feel better. So, and I wanted to get into a little bit with you, Shira, the difference between these HeartMath techniques and meditation. There are a couple of really important differences.
Yes, please.
And one of the differences is when you're doing a HeartMath technique, you can actually do it with your eyes open. And so a lot of people suggest with meditation, you do it with your eyes closed. Now, or some people do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are now changing their minds because of trauma. We realize that's not always
because of trauma, but you still probably don't want to start meditating while you're driving in a traffic jam. You could do a HeartMath technique while you're in a traffic jam, just so that you stay alert and calm while you're dealing with
these theta and alpha waves that you were telling me about before. Okay, explain this to the listeners because they didn't hear that bit.
So in meditation, we are trying to activate our theta waves. And the theta waves are similar to the waves that you're in, like deep rest, deep relaxation, completely parasympathetic. We're not actually trying to do that with HeartMath. You can get into parasympathetic if that's what you need, but if you need to get active, it can shift you into sympathetic because you need to go and do something. So it's more of creating the ease of moving back and forth depending on what your energetic needs are at that moment. So it's more of a moment to moment tool that if you're about to run a race, you want to be in your best go and race well. If you're about to have a difficult conversation with somebody, You want to get your nervous system in a different place. And so all you're doing is switching on the communication between your heart and your brain, listening to your heart instead of your brain. And then that just gets all of your systems within your body more in sync. And I'm willing, to do one of our simpler techniques if you would like me to share that. Or let's answer questions first.
We all love that. Well, what did you say just now?
Do you have questions first about anything I explained?
No, I think it's pretty clear, because the way you're working is just that it synchronizes all the systems within the body. So you can still be active, but in a calm state, no?
Exactly. Right? It's alert but calm, or if you need more calm but alert. it's you just reverse the order.
Yeah. And how does it work? How does that work? Is it through feeling, breathing?
Okay. Yeah, it's a combination of feeling and breathing. And they've looked at lots of different ways to breathe. And this is what's interesting, because in yoga, we always practiced longer exhales over inhales if we wanted to calm down, right? That was, pretty much standard information. If you want to calm your nervous system down, lengthen your exhale beyond your inhale. But they've done over 400 HeartMath studies, and in most of the studies, they found the one that works the best is just doing about a 5 or 6 second inhale and a 5 or 6 second exhale. No pauses, just a continuous breathing practice of 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. And interestingly enough, when I started researching that, a lot of ancient religions, including, I guess there's a prayer in Christianity where they use the rosary beads. There's a certain prayer. It's called, is it the Gregory? I don't know. So there's a prayer that the Catholics have used forever. And there is a chant used in yoga. And the cadence of both of these are about 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. So again, this shows ancient wisdom was somehow sensing that by doing this particular saying over and over again, you are syncing up your heart with your brain in this beautiful.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I've also looked up prana and seen that the breath, or this belief that life in the breath is sacred, and it's found in the Jewish tradition, it's found in the Christian tradition, the Muslim tradition. They all talk about this life energy and how important it is, but I didn't know about this samavriti.
Yes, exactly, how good that is.
Yeah.
And so, and what they've done is when they've tested this, they have nodes here, on your heart, they have nodes on your brain, they even have nodes on your skin to look at all the different signs that things are being coordinated. And so they've got lots and lots of scientific studies on this. And so almost every one of their practices start with an equal inhale and exhale, trying to slow it down to the count of 5, if that's accessible. And they do acknowledge that. They acknowledge that's not always accessible for everybody, but slowing down both the inhale and the exhale. And when you start to do that, you then focus your breath in your chest or heart area, which is an interesting thing. Again, as a yoga teacher, I would have considered that possibly a shallow breath. And it's not necessarily a shallow breath, it's a focused breath. So we could start by doing that. You could keep your eyes open or closed. It's up to you. And you can either place your hand on your heart or not. Obviously, if you are driving a car, please don't close your eyes and please don't place your hand on the heart. So we're slowing our breath down to hopefully a count of 5, if that is accessible and easy for you. Inhaling to the count of 5 and exhaling to the count of 5. Your breath is focused on your heart or chest area. So activate a feeling of care, compassion, or appreciation for something or someone in your life. It can even be a pet. It can be a memory. It can be someone still with you or someone who has passed on. But this is different than thinking about them. You are feeling this care, compassion, or appreciation. Continue with this heart-focused breathing. You just might notice things changing in your system when you do this. Just this feeling of calmness or just, but you're not sleepy, you're not in a deep state, you're just a little more synced up. This is a practice that can be done anywhere, anytime, for as little as 2 minutes. It's known as quick coherence. So think about it. If you need to get into coherence on the spot, or you're about to go into an important meeting or face a difficult conversation, or you're just trying to prep for your day. And from there, we go in many, many different directions in HeartMath with this particular technique. But the research shows some very interesting things about practicing this, that you actually can release 2 hormones. One is called oxytocin, which is known as the happy hormone. And then the other one is DHEA. And please don't ask me to say those words. Just remember it is DHEA because I'll mispronounce
I'm trying to practice it too. I just discovered DHEA like
It's
weeks ago.
It's a longevity hormone.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is a lot of us try to take supplements for that. It's not, I have a little bit I use a bioidentical hormone cream, but it naturally starts declining very, very early in life. Like your peak is at age 10.
Yeah.
And so they've actually been able to show that these 2 hormones, through, again, testing, oxytocin, which makes you feel happy in the moment, and DHEA, which is the precursor to all those hormones you need for longevity, for vitality.
I also read about depression. It helps depression and inflammation. So it's
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it lowers your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this.
Even what was it? Fat mass, and increases your lean body mass muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I mean, they're using these techniques in hospitals, in schools, in corporations now, because, you know, we need more easily accessible tools. And the thing that I've loved, I mean, I love being a yoga teacher, and I love teaching people meditation and all the things I do, but there is a certain group of people out there
You
who
can't.
won't ever try it because it's called yoga.
There's many.
And,
Yes.
and so to be able to reach more people with these simple science-based techniques that still have so many of the same precepts as yoga does, and so much of the same um, rich understanding and scientific basis. Yoga has the same scientific basis, you know. So I'm just loved that I've added that. And again, for somebody like me that has a hard time sitting and doing a 20-minute meditation session, has a very difficult time for staying still. If I can access this kind of feedback from my heart into my brain in
Within
little
2
bits
minutes.
all day long, it is cumulative.
Yeah.
And the one thing I do use is I use their biofeedback tool. I have bought their biofeedback tool, and it hooks right into my phone. And then I hook it, there's a sensor that hooks to my ear. And what I do is I can actually, it's nice to be able to see the evidence. Like if I start off and it goes from red to blue to green. And so if I'm in red, I'm kind of not in coherence, you know? I mean, there's something going on. So I have to sit and actually practice for a while to see if I can move my internal physiology back into a more coherent state. And the one thing is you don't use this as a competition. You don't get upset at yourself if you're not green all the time. You use this, you know, because competitive people will do that. It's like, and then they'll start getting
That's very
stressed.
familiar. That's why I'm laughing.
They'll get stressed out because I'm not green. So I got to work harder.
Yeah, rather than.
So it's not about working harder. It's about practicing, like practicing brushing your teeth. You know, we brush our teeth. We don't try to get really good at brushing our teeth, right? We just brush our teeth. So if you can start doing these things as a habit, you will actually change your baseline. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change our baseline and maintain the best health we can with what we're working with. And I just have found that it has just been life-changing. But again, I have to say, Shira, that I have to do all these things for me. Like, could I just do HeartMath and eat crap all day and not do my yoga? And no, that's not going to work either.
I think this is one big misconception of our culture and the societies we all live in now worldwide, is that we don't realize that life is work, relationships are work, being a good parent is work,
being healthy is work.
Yeah. It's all just, we have to put in the effort. Do we want to enjoy our life? And I think
but you can enjoy the work, and that's the thing.
Exactly. And then you enjoy
make
it more, and then doing the practice isn't a chore anymore, because you're not struggling. Yeah.
Yep, it's fun. It does good for you, and it makes you an easier person to be around. And
you connect to something within yourself that doesn't make you long and run after all these things.
Well, and that's such a good point you bring up, because they did a fascinating study on intuition. And I have to tell you about this HeartMath study. So what they did is they put all these people in a room, and they didn't tell them what they were going to see on a computer. And they hooked up all these monitors. And what they were doing is they were flashing different pictures, violent pictures and calm pictures. But you had no idea what order these pictures would come up. And you had a space between the pictures. Well, when they did this study, they noticed the heart knew before the violent picture would come up.
Oh,
It
really?
changed your heart rate like that in anticipation
Oh, wow.
before the picture, and it sent the signal to the brain, which then sent the signal to the stomach and everywhere else, and then your skin. So that was the order. So the heart's intuition, it senses things way before the brain does. And so if we spent more time tapping into our heart, we probably make better decisions for ourselves anyway, when it comes to our health, when it comes to anything, relationships or whatever we're doing.
Yeah, this is what they call neuroception, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. They have
body without conscious awareness.
exactly.
Even they talk about children can sense when a child molester is walking 60 meters away from them. They would crawl to their caretakers because they intuitively felt it.
Exactly. And what happens to us as we age, I think, is we stop spending the time paying attention to what our heart is telling us. And so this is also a great tool just to really tap back into the heart's intelligence and just and know that, and it's quieting the monkey mind. I mean, if you think about it, that's what we're trying to do, because the monkey mind is going to change its ideas every 2 seconds.
That just keeps us so busy, we're not tuned into the body and the heart.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Andrea. This has been a wonderful talk. This has been really, really enlightening for me as well. So thank you for sharing. Is there anything you would like to leave listeners with?
Well, I am doing an interesting thing. It's free. I'm doing something called uplift circles.
Mm-hmm.
And uplift circles are when a bunch of us get together and do some heart focused breathing at the same time. And it would require you get an app on your phone called the Global Coherence Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you decide to get the paid app for looking at your own coherence is up to you. But regardless, it's twice a week. I'm going to ask the people who want to do it to get on the exact same time as I am. And the app actually walks you through the steps of breathing and how to get into it, with the idea that we're putting out our heart energy at the same time, which might improve things for all people, whether, they're close to you or they live 4,000 miles away. And there's a big effort to try to put more of this heart energy out in such a polarized time that we live in, to maybe just help the energy of the earth and all of its people and living things. So if anybody is interested, Shira, I am going to do a free talk on it on Sunday, and they can reach out either, I don't know if you have notes that, how to get in touch with Andrea.
And if you send me all the links, I'll put them in the show notes. Yes.
Okay. So that is something I'm getting excited to do about, not only contributing to our own health and our friends' health, but contributing to the health of all living beings on the planet.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, I want to join. I hope it's not middle of the night here.
I know. Yeah. We'll have to, my second time I'll have to be done at a time that works for you. Well, mine, it's going to be 3 p.m. Wednesday afternoons. What time is that in your neck of the woods?
Oh, you're 6 hours behind. Well, that's 9 o'clock at night.
That's not a bad time.
Okay,
so
that's a good time.
So that's one time that all the groups have committed to doing it at. Okay. And then the second time we can, and it's only between 5 and 15 minutes. I mean, we're not on for long.
Yeah, it's doable for all those type A people.
Exactly. So thank you so much for including me in your beautiful podcast.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's really lovely to have you on. And I'm glad you're doing your work.
And I'm glad you're doing yours. And hopefully we'll be able to connect more.
Yes, I would love that. I would really like that. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao. So thank you for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. For those of you who don't know, I've also got a Facebook group, which I forgot to plug in all these podcasts. And it's called Yoga for Emotional Empowerment and Health. So it's all about learning different tools for different emotions and understanding them in relation to Ayurvedic elements and principles. So you can really quickly self-regulate yourself. So weekly I do a live for 10, 15 to 20 minutes where I explain about different emotions, also anxiety and depression. So please join there, and I will put a link to the Facebook group in the notes. Website, I also have a lot of blogs and articles, resources that you can download, PDFs, which will help you deal better with emotional life and turn those emotions from a sea of emotions which you feel totally out of control in, to actually transforming your life and feeling empowered, feeling that you are alive and passionate and that you understand what emotions are trying to tell you and how you can move with them rather than against them or suppressing them. Okay, much love to you and be well. See you next week, or hear from me next week in any case. Bye.